Oh my gosh. We are live on the Erin Strayer Show, and I know that concentrating on living a life of uncommon, right? Like, let's think about that for a second. And practicing feeling good is an effort for most of us female entrepreneurs. Many of you are aware that it's difficult to get ourselves to do things that we want to do and that are good for us. Some of you fear this thing called aging process, and I'm just telling you, I'm right there. And most of you know and feel the emotional capacity of what that really is, and that there's a subconscious belief that keeps us from at capacity. I'm talking today with Leah Lund, who is a neuronutrient therapist. We're going to figure out what that is in just a second. She's a hypnotherapist, a rapid transformational therapist, and a health coach, and the founder of One Whole Health, which helps women reboot their brain and move past anxiety, overwhelm, and food or body issues into a vibrant health, mental clarity, and the courage and the capacity to live fulfilling, happy lives. Her unique trademarked brain makeover method uses neuroscience. Yep, she's wicked smart. Neuronutrition. She's super intelligent in nutrition, hypnotherapy, and other techniques as a springboard to help you feel happy and confident and find freedom from anxiety, depression. Who's got that? Overwhelm. None of us feel any of that. Emotional eating. Cravings, low energy, brain fog, insomnia. We all sleep so good. Lying, pain and burnout. And as an author, speaker, laughter yoga leader, author, and past mentor for Neuronutrient Therapy Institute, and the owner of the most amazing shoes I have ever seen in my life, Leah regularly appears on stages, podcasts, and online shows all over the world. So hang around, because today is an amazing, amazing show. If you're watching from any other platform other than the Erin Strayer Show, there's a link right above you in the feed. Go ahead and click that. Come on over here and hang out with us. We'll be able to see you and see your comments. If you're on those other platforms, we super appreciate you being with us. We are live on the Erin Strayer Show, where we are all about promoting, cultivating, and expanding amazing female entrepreneurs. We talk about hot topics. I just listed a bunch of them. Pain points. We all got those too. We're going to work around those today as Leah brings her A game to our stage. I'm Erin Strayer, and recovering corporates and entrepreneurs hire me to get them business beyond the basics, because most are indecisive. They're held hostage by their own fear. We might talk about some of that today, and have settled for average. Who's okay with average? Not me. So I help them keep on task by setting obtainable goals, plugging gaping holes in their business and personal lives, and taking their dreams to reality. And bottom line, I provide executive level accountability sessions so you and your business gets the attention to detail it deserves, and you start excelling and making money. She's brilliant. She's going to rock your world and your thought process. So please help me welcome my dear friend, Miss Leah Lund, to the stage today.
Thank you so much, Erin. Hello, friend. Happy birthday, friend. What a gift to me that you're giving me for your birthday, which is to be here with you and your audience.
It's so good. It's so good. So seriously, like, we go back like a long time, and I am so excited to have you on my show. And we're like, you are brilliant. You are wickedly, wickedly knowledgeable. You have so many trainings and techniques and degrees behind your name. Like, we would need 2 whole sheets of paper for all the things that you are trained in. And like, I love who you are and what you serve. And I love how you show up in the world. So thank you so much for being on the show today with us.
Thank you. It means the world coming from you. Thank you very much.
No, and your whole focus is rebooting our brain, right? Like, massively rebooting your brain. And I love how that like lines up with every single thing, right? Like, every single part of us wants to be better, think different, be in a different space, work with different stuff. And that's what people come to you about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to say about the brain, the wonderful thing is it changes every day. It changes all the time. It's completely plastic. And I know for me, at a very young age, I really thought something was wrong with my brain and my thinking, and therefore with me. And so many decades later, when I learned I can actually change my own brain, it was the most empowering thing that I can ever imagine. Like, it was just the hugest relief. So that's really, with all those trainings and that in itself can sound overwhelming. I really love to simplify, because when it comes down to it, that's what it's all about, is that you are in control. Our mind directs our brain. I think of our brain as just a mechanism. It takes input and it gives output. So if we input that we're stressed, it's going to send the messages for stress chemicals, for example. And so the mind really is directing the brain, but we get to lead the mind. So we get to start the whole process, and we're bigger than mind or brain. We're mind, body, soul, and higher power, right? So we're in charge.
And it's such a different way. And I want to go back to something that you just said about our brains being plastic. Like, dive into that a little bit more with me, because that to me is a cool statement, and it really makes me go, what?
Yeah. So literally, based on what we think, it determines, and how we think about something, say, that's happening outside of us, it determines which neurons fire together. And whichever neurons fire together, they get really good at hanging out together. And you've probably heard the expression, the brain cells that fire together then wire together. They form this really strong neural pathway. But all it takes to form a different pathway is have a different thought, or do something different. Take a different action. And it leads not only to how we're thinking and how we're feeling from an emotional standpoint, but really literally to our physical body, because the blood is the medium of our cells, and this direction from the brain and which neurons are firing determines the blood. So even epigenetics, Bruce Lipton trains on this all the time, that how we think can even affect our gene expression. So diseases and things that we might be predisposed to doesn't mean we have to get them. And it all comes back to how we're training our brain to respond by what we're proactively thinking and doing.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And I love the fact that we can actually shift, and what you said, retrain our brains to do is really, like, I think a lot of us think that we're programmed one way. There's no other way around it. We were born with it. It's genetic, whatever term you want to put on it, that's all there is. Like, that's what we got. And I love that you come at it from another angle, not only and then you have the science to back it up, right? Really to say, guess what? You can flip that. This is how you do it. So one of your labels is a I got to make sure it's right. Neuro nutrition. I can't even hardly say it.
Yeah. So say brain food.
Brain food. That's really, so much easier.
Yeah, it's what it is. It's specific nutrients for the brain. But to go a little deeper on it, what that means is targeted amino acid therapy for the brain, the use of high levels of specific amino acids in order to boost or restore our reserve of 4 different brain chemicals that are largely responsible for how we feel. So these are things like serotonin and endorphin that we're familiar with. We should have an ample supply and flow. We should have a reserve tank of each of these chemicals, so that if something's particularly stressful or new, we can draw from our reserve. But all the stress of life, or sometimes a specific tragedy, accident, infection, injury, something like that, zaps out our reserve, and we can get depleted. And then we'll feel things. We can get into all the different symptoms, because it's like it's everything you were rattling off and more. And it's
the brain fog, the insomnia, the cravings, or weight loss because you're not even hungry, right? Like, on and on and on. High levels of anxiety when your head spins off for no apparent reason, right?
Exactly. And the big message here is that is largely, if not completely, biochemical. So where we might be wrestling with this concept of willpower, about not eating the sugars or the carbs or something, or just feeling like you were saying, this is just how I am. I'm a stressed out kind of person. My whole family's kind of stressed out. No, maybe your whole family is low in serotonin, but your whole family isn't stressed out or doesn't have to stay that way forever. And so that's the big message of that I want to come across about neuronutrition, is these things that we feel and maybe even take as our personality are not permanent. They're biochemical. And with targeted high levels in the form of supplements of amino acids, the certain ones that make the certain chemicals, we can change that.
And is that just a process of like, how are those supplements determined? Like, is that just a conversation between me and you and your wicked knowledge base going, oh, Erin, that's easy. That you're lacking in blah, 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 and you need to do this?
In most cases, I use a symptom assessment. It's 40 different symptoms. I have clients.
I have them all. No.
That's actually more common than not. Sometimes the assessment will show depletion in all 4 chemicals, and I'm really quick to say that's expected, because all the same things either led to depletion in all of them, and then all the same things will help you simultaneously restore all of them. So it doesn't mean it's a more complex or more serious or permanent situation. But simple systems. There is some blood testing. Really, the most accurate way to test would be cerebral spinal fluid. We don't do that.
Just go get your spinal tap.
And we don't need to. That's a beautiful thing. We don't need to. We can measure by the symptoms and then introduce and trial certain amino acids and see what effect it's having and what change is happening. And I give feedback, and then I have a client, maybe up or change to a different amino acid or something like that. And we dial it in to the point that in a short period of time, certainly weeks, but most often days and sometimes even hours, you feel a difference.
Wow. And I know this answer, but I want you to tell the people, really, it's what we put in our bodies. Yeah,
it's what we put in our bodies and what we think.
And what we think.
Yeah, the two biggest things. So say somebody depleted in serotonin. Like I know now, I was as a child depleted in serotonin. And I grew up on a farm, so we ate mostly things that came from our farm.
Sure.
So it wasn't really only about the nutrition, although that is one major cause of neurotransmitter depletion, but it's also stress level, which of course can be influenced by how adrenals are functioning. It's the amount of daylight. Well, I was in North Dakota, so winters were really long and dark. So that was a factor. Heritage. It can be a factor, and genetic from the standpoint that I know now, looking at it, my mother was low in serotonin. And so I was born at a deficit. I'm convinced of that. But whether it came from stress for someone, whether it came from nutritional, either not eating the right things or not having something going on in the gut so that you can't absorb the great food that you're eating, or not getting enough sleep, not getting enough sunshine or hydration, or even inherited, any of those things. It doesn't really matter how it got that way, because we go about the repair in the same way.
So being that, like, today's the day for me, and
you're joining the best decade.
Today's the day.
The next one, and then I'll say that's the best decade.
I really feel like as we age, as we as women specifically age, like I know you deal with men too, but we're talking to the women today because I want to.
And can I just throw this in, because I want women to know this? Just naturally, even when everything is good, we make a third less serotonin than men.
Let that land. A third less serotonin than women do make.
Even when we're doing good.
Serotonin, just for the people. Yeah. Give them the scientific behind serotonin. What's it do for us?
Yeah, so
I know we all need to have it. We all have heard the word, but what is it?
Yeah, it is not only our sense of happiness and freedom from things like irritability and depression and anxiety, but it's really
we usually go take some antidepressants for.
Exactly. And even our sense of humor about life, like kind of taking things as they come and not being rigid and just being with what's happening and feeling calm and happy about it. Yeah. So this is exactly what, all the SSRIs and antidepressants are for, except that we don't have a Prozac deficiency. we have a protein deficiency, meaning the specific amino acids that can get that serotonin being produced again.
I love that. I love that point that you just made. We don't have a, what'd you say? A Prozac deficiency.
Prozac deficiency.
Just going to let that land a little bit more for our people. We have a ton of people watching on our watch party that's going on right now. So thank you so much, everybody, for being over there with us. Do you think that this lack of serotonin directly relates with our fear of aging and what that does to us long term, or something else comes into play? Because I think specifically for women, like men, you know, when their hair turns gray, they're viewed as massive wisdom holders, right? Like as soon as they get that little bit of gray going, they're like, oh, that man's smart, right? But women, like, we do everything to cover it up because we don't want to look old. We don't want to feel old. We are the ones that do all the plastic surgery. You never hear about guys getting plastic surgery, you know, to take care of all the things and the things that aren't where they're supposed to be anymore. Right? Like, what do you think comes into play with that fear of not being perfect anymore? Or
good question. So one of the symptoms, so serotonin deficiency has so many different symptoms, and some of them are physical, like the sleep issues and all of that, gut issues, headaches. But one of them is also lack of confidence. So if we're depleted in serotonin, we're lacking in our confidence. And, you know, what is fear? Well, fear is really procrastination combined with anxiety. Maybe you could think, you know, it's that thing that holds us back. And so between serotonin and I would say the Gaba neurotransmitter also, because Gaba neutralizes our adrenaline. Most women that are depleted in one of those is going to be depleted in both. And yeah, that is a biochemical reason for your fear about things. And that's not to say you couldn't have some experiences from previous in life that formed a subconscious belief that, you know, there is a, what I call a legit fear, but biochemically you could have a lot of false fears. And when that biochemistry is restored, it turns out you're actually not that afraid of that thing at all. You just maybe have been depleted for a long time. And so, you know, you felt like that's just what you're afraid of. But so that's why in the whole brain makeover method, we start with this neuronutrition. We don't stop there, but we start there because then we're dealing with the real thoughts and the real subconscious beliefs and the real emotions that are based on something. It's not just fear in general. It might be fear about something specific, and then you can delve into mindset work, and which I know you're a master of, Erin. But you know, that way we're at a level playing field and playing and spending time or going to therapy if that's on the real things, not on those that are just biochemically exaggerated.
Sure. And that makes makes so much sense. And I know that a lot of people that are on with us now and that do watch our replays are actually like therapists. And it's interesting, that point that you just made, that you're actually like, once your serotonin and your Gaba, is that what the other one? Did I say that right? Are in balance, right? And your confidence is there and you got that covered, that they're actually able to take care of the real stuff. Exactly.
And you have an underlying little bit more courage, you know, maybe a lot more courage to say, okay, now I can figure this out. You have that capacity, that resiliency to say, okay, now I'm ready to take on my, my fear of getting back in a relationship or something if somebody's gone through a difficult divorce. And by the way, that divorce, some of us get depleted from birth, from genetic inheritance. Some of us, it's just like a consistent chronic level of stress that we've learned to pretend we're okay with for a long time, and it eventually catches up. And then for some, we get depleted over an instant, you know, over an accident, over a divorce, over the loss of a loved one, over eating disorder. An addiction can destroy this. And usually if that's the case, a client will say, like, everything changed when I didn't used to be like this, but once I got divorced, I just couldn't tolerate stress, or I was afraid to do everything, or I couldn't sleep anymore, or, you know, whatever it is, or I started really having these cravings and just eating all this junk food, whatever it is. But again, either way, we go about the restoring the same way.
That's interesting. We have a question over here on the Eileen's over watching over here. She said, Leah, other than the obvious symptoms, should we be getting any tests? And if so, which ones?
Sure. So again, for neurotransmitter depletion, the symptom test is, and that's on our website and everything, is really the best way. There's a blood platelet test. If somebody's pregnant or nursing, that's the only time that I do a blood test. And again, that only tests for 2 of the 4, so it's not as reliable as cerebral spinal fluid, and I just don't. That's not necessary or probably feasible, or you could even find it. So really for this in particular, it's not about lab tests. It really is about these symptoms and understanding that this is how the brain works. There's a lot of, also, I just want to throw this in, there's a lot of amino acid, like blended products available in health food stores and things. We're talking about much higher therapeutic doses. So if you get, and you'll see them, they'll be called the stress blend and the sleep blend, and
Sure.
you know, and they'll have a little bit of a lot of different amino acids. But the word targeted is truly what it is. It's therapeutic, pretty high doses of specific ones. There's also precautionary conditions for some of the specific ones. So there are some that are known to increase cortisol or increase blood pressure, or, you know, so I take into account somebody's health history. As far as other lab testing for Eileen, that it is pretty common that I'll do a salivary cortisol test for your adrenal function, because cool. Almost always that's a part of the picture. Because if we're tapping into GABA, for example, the job of GABA is to neutralize adrenaline. So our adrenaline gets up when there's something that we should fear, something legit, you know, somebody swerving over into our lane on the freeway or something. Mm-hmm. And then cortisol does its thing to help us move fast and keep ourselves safe, but that should go back down again. If we have continual perceived stress, which 99% of our stress is, it's how we're thinking about things, then the cortisol is at first very high, and then our adrenals just get exhausted and we don't make it anymore. And so at the same time, we've been tapping into the GABA reserve more and more and more, because we don't have the cortisol to deal with it, and then we get depleted there. So adrenal salivary test is one that I do quite often. There's also a condition called pyroluria.
I've heard of that.
Yeah.
That's stomach stuff, isn't it? Pylo?
It's what?
Is it stomach?
No, it's actually a genetic condition where stomach can affect, because it's about absorption, a genetic condition where we don't retain or absorb or utilize vitamin B6 or zinc very well, 2 nutrients. So it sounds not so serious, right? That is just two nutrients. But for the 11% of the population, so it's not real common, 11% of the population that this is the case for, it hugely interferes with serotonin production and with dopamine and the other catecholamines. So sometimes the root cause of the depletion is that your body and your brain were never really strong with making those chemicals in the first place because of pyroluria. That too, even though there are lab tests, there are a lot of false positives and a lot of false negatives. So I rely mainly on a symptom assessment for that as well.
That's so interesting. And that's so in a lane that I know nothing about. I mean, we've had multiple conversations, we have big health and medical backgrounds, both of us do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what you know and how the lane that you're in, I know nothing of that stuff. And that's so interesting to me, specifically as, I've been out of medicine for 5 years now, and, your brain switches on to think about other things, and I don't. Mm-hmm. and it's really interesting as a I've now hit the next decade, right? Like it's really interesting for me to sit and like hear what you're saying. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, I've never thought about those things. I've never had an instance to have to think about those things or being prompted to think about those things. And then, Eileen's question that gets the conversation going more is really, really interesting. And I want people to know that they can reach out to you, that your website is there. You said the questionnaire,
mm-hmm.
That yep. Symptom questionnaire is on your website.
Yep. It's called Brain Chemistry Assessment. And so that's on the website. There's a blog there about pyroluria, and that links to a pyroluria symptom assessment. So yeah, it's all at onewholehealth.com.
Okay, brain, if I could spell chemistry right while I'm talking and typing, that would be awesome.
And I think that it's important to say to touch on what you just shared, Erin. Like, I haven't been thinking about these things since I was in the medical world. I'm shifted and I'm thinking about something else. I think that happens for most of us over the course of our life. We sort of go through, is it physical? Oh no, wait, it's all about our thoughts. Our thoughts create. Oh no, wait, it's all about spiritual. If I'm just in touch enough spiritually, all of this won't be a problem. The reality is we're multifaceted beings. We're spiritual beings in a human body. So the physical does matter and it doesn't count. It's not the only thing, because you can heal the physical. And then if your mindset and the thoughts that you repeatedly think are stressful to your brain, you'll work yourself back into depletion. Eventually, it might take a while, but you'll eventually work yourself back. Likewise, we are spiritual beings. So for me, that's why it's always been holistic. This is the catalyst and the springboard, as you said at the beginning, but then you go on to heal, if you want to use that word, heal in other ways, heal emotionally, heal spiritually.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because even though I'm out of the medical world and my world was, heart related, I still heal hearts in another way, right? And it's really interesting when you make that shift in your head, that with the point that you just made, that even though our lives shift and change and move, and it's probably like way more often than we give ourselves credit to shifting and changing our world, especially as women, that we get to know that those healings and those connections and those ways that you're touching and changing worlds, like, still are happening, just in a different way. And I love that. I want to shift gears not total shift gears, but I want to spend some time talking about your massive big project that you got coming up.
Yay. Okay. So we are about to release our 4th annual Reboot Your Brain. And this is a 2-week online show. Hats off to you that do it all the time. Because 2 weeks is quite a big production. But it's a 2-week online show. And this year in particular, Reboot Your Brain is the women's edition. And I have interviewed 33 experts, and there's actually 34 or 35 interviews, because one of them did a couple for us because there was too juicy to pick between topics. And it's really full spectrum, everything that affects a woman's ability to feel good, especially what starts with the brain. So there's no way I could cover all the topics, but a few of the really, I think, just mind-blowing conversations. One is from a female doctor that went into early menopause at age 38.
Whoa.
And reversed it by making changes in her body and with her diet, reversed it, and went on to have a child at age 41. There is
She reversed menopause?
She reversed menopause.
Like, that just landed. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, what?
Early menopause, she reversed early menopause, because really her body shouldn't have been in menopause at 38 years old. Yeah. There is a functional psychiatrist who, at age 50, Erin, and I'm 51, so right there with you, had severe symptoms of dementia at age 50. She had been literally researching Alzheimer's professionally, and then all this stuff started happening to the point where she couldn't dial her own phone.
Whoa.
She reversed that. She's sharp as a tack. You'll see her on the interview, and it's just extraordinary. Another example, we have a mother of an autistic son who was diagnosed with autism spectrum at age 5. He's now 16. He's been downgraded to ADD.
Really?
Yep. And he writes books and teaches about autism, and he's 16 years old.
No way. That's super cool.
We have Erin Strayer on the show, I have to say, which is a conversation all about fear, the whole holistic, well-rounded picture of fear. Because to move past fear, it really does take mind, body, soul. It takes being solid physically in our brain, but then being solid mentally. And Erin, you share such a great conversation about that.
It's so neat. I was blown away with the amount of incredibly intelligent people that were on your list. Like, so honored to be part of that list of people. So like, whoa, like I can't wait. Like, I'm just going to be binge listening.
Yeah.
I'm just massively going to be binge listening to these people. And I cannot wait for that to launch. So that the registration link is on in the feed. It says the Aaron Strayer Show - Leah Lund. That might be the wrong one there for you. So I'll make sure I put the correct one in the link there. We'll make sure that you guys get all the right links to what you need to sign up for that. How many days is it, Leah?
So it's 14 days. We will do a 3-day encore where we'll reopen all the interviews. And also in the emails, once you have let us know you want access, in the email the day before we start, there's going to be a calendar. So it's going to list by day the speaker and their topic.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's like so exciting. And I'm so just really excited about being part of that. I'm going to grab the correct link here for the people and put it in here. This is the Reboot.
And I should mention too, you can also own a copy up until the day we start. So through midnight on April 29th, we've made it half off. So it's $37 to own your own copy of all of it. That's the way I would go.
Right.
I don't like the stress of like, oh, okay, when am I going to have time to listen to this? And I want to listen to it twice. So we tried to make it really easy.
Nice. I love that. That's absolutely the way that I would be going to, and is grabbing that so you can listen to it. And these people are really, really like Leah, I seriously could talk to you all day long about this stuff, because I think it's so vital for women. I think it's so imperative to know this lane of thought process, right? Like, it's not the mainstream here. Let me write your prescription, because that was my world. Oh, yeah. Just go take this pill. Well, you said it earlier. You're not deficient in that pill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's get to the root of the problem. Let's figure out why they think you need that pill. And let's get up to speed and get you healthy, get you sleeping better, get your anxiety at bay, get your weight or your cravings or your
procrastination. Perfectionism, low serotonin symptom.
Right. Yeah. So run down just a handful of those serotonin symptoms again.
So anxiety or depression, irritability, perfectionism, controlling, needing things to be in a certain way, procrastination. Then there's like all the physical, gut health, sleep, headaches. Even fibromyalgia is associated with low serotonin as well. And then cravings. We haven't even really touched on the whole food thing, but cravings, especially if you have them later in the day or the evening, because serotonin is the only neurotransmitter that needs light to be synthesized. So if your cravings go up while it gets darker in the day, it's low serotonin related. If it's a different kind of craving, like a comfort craving, it's probably more low endorphin. But again, our cravings, these things that we think just happen and there's nothing we can do about them, they're hugely biochemical, if not completely.
That's just so crazy, because it's like, well, it's past 6 o'clock. I should be hungry. Oh, yep, I am hungry.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's how it goes. And
exactly.
And no, you should eat when you're hungry.
Mm-hmm. And there's a difference between hunger and craving. If you're hungry, then protein and good fat and some vegetables and variety of plant nutrients will take care of it. If it's like, oh, let me see if it's hunger, I ate all that, no, I still want ice cream, then it's something, or wine, then it's something else.
All right, ladies,
are not an essential. Like, there's no body function that needs carbohydrates. So that's all up here. But sometimes the up here is not our willpower or our, mind of steel is failing us. It's biochemical, but it's up here.
And you are the queen of flipping that and figuring it out. And which is why you're called the brain coach. and you have all the wicked training behind all the things that happen on up here. I know none of that, other than it's necessary to have somebody like you in their lane that really focuses on getting, oh my gosh, people are commenting like crazy over here on the watch party. It just keeps rolling. It's distracting a little bit, but it's cool. To have somebody like you and to be able to tap into a resource like you, to have the amazing resource of the people that you've put together in addition to that, right? So onewholehealth.com is where they find you. The links to the Reboot Your Brain Expert Series is now in the feed. You guys can click on that, get into that, figure that out. But Leah is like off the charts, gifted in, and you have a passion for this. Mm-hmm. Like, not only are you gifted, you have a massive ingrained cellular passion to help women specifically change the way that they view life based on how their brain is currently programmed. And like, people, I'm telling you, put this woman in your world, put her in your world so that you get to show up better with your family, with yourself. Like, let's just go there. Let's just go show up better for yourself. Yeah. Because once that happens, then it is a trickle effect to everybody around you. Your circle just says thank you.
Absolutely.
You get to throw away all those little bottles with the labels on them from the place that you got them from.
Yeah, absolutely.
And live healthy, balanced. Biggest outcome, Leah Lund?
Biggest outcome of doing this, I think, is what you touched on, is first of all, getting to know your real self, because sometimes we think I'm just this way. Oh, I'm a procrastinator. I work best under pressure. I hear that one all the time. It's like, no, you're low in dopamine.
I've never heard that from me.
So it really is a rebirth of sorts. It's like getting to know the real you without all that. And when you know the real you, only when you know the real you, can you then start to trust yourself and honor yourself and grow true self-love, which you mentioned. So for me, that's the purpose. That's the point. Yeah, the brain is crazy cool, right? I love the brain. I am very passionate about it. And at the same time, the point is self-love, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So good. You guys, again, we've been talking to the amazing Leah Lund. She is the brain coach. She does own the onewholehealth.com. You guys can go there, check out, find her little assessment that's on there for your deficiencies, and absolutely jump on her Reboot Your Brain Expert Series. The link is also in the feed for you to grab that there. And if you're smart, you'll grab the $37 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's a no-brainer. It's cheaper than a pair of shoes. Go get it. Listen to it forever. Let those experts feed you. Let the experts feed you, right? Because we only can be expert in our own lane. We're not expert in everybody's lane. So Vibrant Health, Leah Lund is your woman. She will change your world. You guys, thank you, Leah, for your time today. Hang out with me for just a moment. Everybody else, thank you from every single platform that you guys have been watching on and hanging out with us today. We've super appreciated you and acknowledge your time to be with us today on the show. We will be right back with you on our next episode. Take care, everybody. Love you.